want to take a moment here at Speaking of Horses to thank one of our fine sponsors for our coverage right here in Saratoga at the Saratoga Springs Horse Show, Owl Manor Veterinarian. Now, they bring new life to animal health. Talk to your veterinarian about the possibility of using Owl Manor veterinary services. Point of care convenience, natural drug-free therapy, collection and treatment in under an hour. Collecting blood from your animal, from your horse, processing it, putting it back into joints and areas that need healing properties. Talk to your veterinarian about Owl Manor Veterinarian or omveterinary.com and using this process to improve the health of your animal. A big thank you to Owl Manor Veterinary, a sponsor for Speaking of Horses here at the Saratoga Springs Horse Show. Before we get into today's activities out of the program, I have a guest this morning, and I'm really happy to have Janice here. Janice, your last name is?
Albrecht.
Albrecht.
Yeah.
Now, like any horse show, and this is a huge show, it's running 3 weeks this year.
Right.
Actually, right behind us, if the sun wasn't so bright, I'd have that curtain open. And otherwise it really messes up our lighting for this broadcast right now. We got to do something to flip this tin around or whatever. But we have, what, 3 hunter jumper rings and 1 jumper ring, is that right? Or 2?
2 hunter rings and 1 jumper
2
ring.
hunter rings, 1 jumper. We're looking out in front of us, out that way, is the one of the hunter rings, which are already, in their classes. Behind us is the straight jumper ring. What I love about Saratoga is they have the large trees in the arenas.
Yep.
And it just adds to the beautiful setting, demeanor, everything of the Saratoga Horse Show here on this grounds. Now, technically this is Yaddo, which is a retreat, gorgeous preserve. We are right across the street from the Saratoga Racecourse. But now, you are an EMT here, and of course all large horse shows or events have to have an EMT. Tell us about your involvement as an EMT and being here at the event.
Well, I'm from Vermont originally and have been doing horse shows in Vermont for 28 years, and it started at Killington. Now it's north of Manchester. That's the Vermont Summer Festival. But as a skier, ski patrol in the wintertime, I was working rescue at horse shows in the summer at Killington. And when they no longer managed it, the new management company had asked me to go on the road with them as the EMT because I enjoyed it so much and enjoyed the people and the horses and helping the show work out better. So, and then the management from there was brought in here 4 years ago, and they invited me to join their group here, which I'm very happy about.
Well, the management now is a group through the Capital Fund, which, as we mention in every broadcast, has a huge amount of charity work they do in the county and the area here around Saratoga Springs. If you don't know exactly where Saratoga Springs is, we're, 120 miles north of New York City, right up the Hudson River, just a little bit north of Albany, New York. And it's a gorgeous area. You're right at the southern tip of the Adirondack Mountains. Gorgeous. I love it out here. I just love it.
It's a beautiful town, and I got to walk through the huge park last night. The mineral springs are still here for 150 or 200 years. The rich and famous have been coming up here for the healing waters, and it's still going on. They still have all the minerals here.
The beauty of it was you could get on a train in New York City and you could be up here in a couple of hours. Even 150 years ago, when trains were doing 20, 30 miles an hour, within 2 or 3 hours you could be here on a train. And right up the Hudson River, north of West Point, Albany, and here you are. And they did. They came for the healing properties of the springs water.
They still do.
And they still do. And you're right, there's also a lot of big money out of New York. Matter of fact, the gentleman, cannot remember the name, help me, who owned War Admiral that did the match race against Seabiscuit years ago, lived here in Saratoga Springs.
Was it Vanderbilt?
No, it was not a
I'm
Vanderbilt.
sorry.
Vanderbilt's had a place here.
Okay.
So did many of the others. But anyway, let's go back to this show, the Saratoga Springs Horse Show. This is the 56th annual. Now, it's gone under a couple of names like St. Clement's for many years. But it's the same show. This year it's 3 weeks. There are breaks between. We run through May 3rd, and we have a 2-day break.
Monday and Tuesdays off.
Monday and Tuesdays off, then we go again, and then Monday, Tuesday off, and go again. There are some really, really big-time jumpers, eventers, and everything at this show.
Right.
Matter of fact, along through the next week or so, we have, with Revitavet, one of our fine sponsors, we have a couple of jumpers here who are involved in, they're sponsored by Revitavet. They use the package, and we're going to be tracking them down and having them as guests here to talk about their events here at, here at the program, as well as talking about Revitavet and everything. So now, you're on duty every day. You got a beautiful dog with you,
Yes,
too.
I do. And
Tell us about your dog. Every horse person has a dog. Tell us about your dog.
Right. I got him at a horse show in Vermont. He was born on a horse farm. He's an Australian Shepherd. He's named Monroe for Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass. I got him right after a bluegrass festival. So
you must be a bluegrass fan.
I am. And so is Monroe. And he just turned 11 last weekend. So
Well, he doesn't
my
look
11-year-old puppy loves to run and still play like a pup. Yep.
He does not look 11.
Well,
but you mentioned Bill Monroe. I grew up in central Indiana. And I would go there. There's a little town in Brown County, Indiana called Nashville. Just north of Nashville is Bean Blossom. Now, you have to be from the area to know where Bean Blossom is. But there's a big old country barn there, and for years it was Bill Monroe's Bluegrass Jamboree, and they did it every fall.
Nice.
And even there was a bluegrass festival there even before Bill Monroe bought it. But then, in latter years of his life, for probably 30, 35 years until his death, he would be there every fall. And it was a bluegrass jamboree in the hills of southern Indiana in the little town of Bean Blossom.
perfect.
Now, I'm from Indiana if you're there and you know where Bean Blossom is, okay? But anyway, if you're bluegrass and you're Bill Monroe, I figured you'd know where that was because that was his deal. So tell us about your duties here. I mean, obviously the EMT here, even last year, I don't think I saw you doing much at all. It's a fairly safe, well-run show, but you're basically on duty on call, is that correct?
Right, for any emergencies that might arise, but also even seemingly for advice for old problems. Not usually in my job description, but people have known me for so many years that, just to help out in any way that I can. And even helping management a little bit here and there, and just walking around and talking to people and watching the show and making sure people are doing everything they're supposed to do. And when something happens, and
we want to give a big thank you to another fine sponsor here at the Saratoga Springs Horse Show for Speaking of Horses, Source Nutrition. Wonderful micronutrients, additives, and essentials from Source. They harvest seaweed off the coast of Maine, refine it for micronutrients, and come up with wonderful Source nutritional additives and supplements, horses and dogs and the like. Please, a big thank you to Source. Look them up at 4Source, that's the number 4, SOURCE.com. Thank you to Source for being one of our sponsors. give a great big thank you to Revitavet, wonderful product, sponsoring Speaking of Horses here at the Saratoga Springs Horse Show. Revitavet, equine light therapy, assisting in promoting faster healing of injuries, muscle pulls, and the like. Also used as a wonderful warm-up if you're a barrel racer, a jumper, an eventer, or the like. Revitavet was meant for you. A big thank you to Revitavet, wonderful sponsor of Speaking of Horses TV here at the Saratoga Springs Horse Show.